Kim, thank you so much for both being here on Spark TV. Now, I met Kim at an amazing little market / cafe / restaurant probably 3 or 4 years ago. And it wasn't through East Forged, your current business. It was through a previous business. So I'm so excited to chat to you both about how you both met, how you both went into business together, and your backstories. Who wants to kick us off? How did you guys actually get here?
I'll let you talk.
Now we're all going to be too polite now.
Yeah, well, Kim actually normally takes this part, so you go for it, Kim.
Oh, I just thought let's do it in reverse. It's something different.
Oh, okay then. Right. We always try and be even and fair with each other.
Oh my God, I love this. This is like co-founder love right here.
Oh, yeah, we do get along really well. We have our moments. But
yeah, that is true.
Well,
you've got to though. You've got to be able to have your moments.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Kim and I, we're tea specialists, and we actually met down at the Melbourne International Coffee Expo, MICE. And I forget who, I think I was sitting somewhere and Kim was walking past. Anyway, someone introduced us and we started chatting. And that conversation, I don't know, we just went into the whole thing like, I wish tea was more like this. I wish people understood tea better. And so we found through that quick conversation, we had some pretty common values. And then over time, we did a couple of, a little project together, which was the whiskey infused tea. I'm sorry, it was...
that's cool.
Yeah, we infused some oolong tea in a whiskey barrel.
Oh,
so that was pretty interesting. And
it was fun.
Yeah, and through that, it gave us a glimpse into our work ethics.
Yep.
And then we just started having conversations about how bad is the iced tea industry and why don't more cafes do cold brew tea? It's so easy. And we thought, well, if they're not going to do it, maybe we should do it. And then this conversation, and Kim and I were talking. I still remember one day saying to Kim, we're having this conversation, but you're sort of thinking about this as both of us doing it together, huh? And she went, oh yeah, of course. Do you remember that?
I do. I was going to say it was like we were sort of workshopping some not issues, but in terms of bringing a cold tea product to market, we were just talking through the issues that I was thinking of. And I always just had in my mind that because Tania and I had been talking about it together, that it was something I'd like to do with her together. So that was never a question. And I think the penny dropped for Tania one day, and it was just like, oh, you're talking about us doing it together.
Yeah, because you can never assume. You never know. She might have been just digging into my brain. Yeah. So basically, that's how it happened. I live here in regional Victoria, and Kim, as you know, is in Queensland. But I am an ex-Queenslander. So
excellent, good. I'm glad.
I have to say, there's lots of times I love coming up to Queensland, and I just love talking to Kim because I know we're all Australians, but really every state speaks their own language.
It's very true.
And so I often say to Kim, I really feel like I'm coming home. When I'm chatting to her, I come to visit. So, yeah, so basically that's how we started off, yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. And because it's really interesting, I remember when I first tried the product, because I remember I did a little stint in the US, and I was always surprised. So in the US, they're a little bit more into iced tea, unsweetened, as you would expect it to be. But in Australia, it's the terrible, in a bottle, sugary, disgusting. And I was always surprised that we didn't have that here. So when I saw your product, I was like, this is like a no-brainer. This makes sense. This is how you should drink it. So obviously, so what is your elevator pitch? I won't do it. Tell me the elevator pitch for East Forged.
Oh, your turn, Kimmy.
Okay. Well, with East Forge, we produce a refreshingly social new style of iced tea. We don't add any sugars or sweeteners. It's just the natural cold brew taste of tea. And we add a small amount of fruit juice to round out the flavor profile. But the exciting thing that we do in the theatrical element is we add in a new addition, which is what we've come to coin as the air element. And really it's a trend element because it's incorporating, we utilize two different gases to come up with that textural concept. And when it pours out into a glass, it actually looks like another social beverage, the beer.
Yeah, it's so cool. I remember the first time I tried it, when you shake it up and the nitro infusion does its work and then it pours out, and you're like, wow, this is like I'm drinking something super special. This isn't just iced tea as you know it. It's really exciting.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what Kim and I wanted, because anyone can do cold brew tea at home. And it doesn't have to be the special cold brew tea bags, by the way. Any tea will work as a cold brew. You know, you just pop the leaves into the water and then pop it into the fridge overnight. So we knew we had to create an elevated customer experience.
Yes.
And also by not adding sugar, fats and alcohol provide so much texture to a drink. And so because we weren't, and they are flavor carriers as well. And because we weren't adding those elements, we needed something. And as Kim said, that's where we added the air, our unique mix of gases. And that adds that beautiful mouth texture when you're drinking it, that silky smooth nitro foam.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So then tell me, okay, so you both met at a coffee conference, which I find crazy. You were your tea background and tea product, and you met at a coffee conference. But so how did you? So obviously you both had careers or businesses before that. What were your individual backgrounds before you got to East Forged?
Yeah, sure. I'll dive in. I am actually a chartered accountant by my training. Did you know that, Danielle?
I didn't know that. No, I just think of you as my tea lady.
No, my past life. Well, I still am a chartered accountant. I'm a registered chartered accountant. But yeah, I did the whole thing through Big Four, and I've worked in a variety of sectors, and I even went and spent time over in the UK for 5 years in a FTSE listed media agency, and travelled around the world in that role. And yeah, so that's kind of my previous background. And I guess in terms of where tea sort of fits into my life, tea has been part of my life right from when I was a small child. And I am actually a Taiwanese Australian adoptee. So my parents are of a Western background. And so tea in our household was very much the British traditions of tea. So that sort of black tea with milk. But not great tea, by the way. No.
Sounds like the tea my dad drinks.
yeah. It was like this little quick dunk of a tea bag into water and then lots of milk. It's not great. But it's a ritual, and it was always that thing that was on the table. You know, the pot of tea, the kettle would go on as soon as everyone woke up in the morning. If we had a guest, it would be the first thing that we made for them. So in that respect, I guess I've always just had this nice ritual and comfort and soothing feeling around tea. And then I guess as I left home and I went to university, which I went to uni in Brisbane, I sort of started to do a bit more exploration, more of the trends on tea flavored and those styles of tea. So I sort of became known in my tea circles as being the tea person, but looking back, I actually knew nothing about tea, to be honest. Yeah, we just used to have these little tea parties where we, brew up a few different flavored teas. And so when my husband and I had our first trip together overseas, he wasn't my husband at the time, but he organized this experience for me to sit down with a tea master. And
wow.
Yeah, he was a tea in Singapore, and it was a brewing master. So he had this dinky little tea set. I've never seen it before. And we sat down, everything was miniature size, tiny, like doll size.
Mm.
And what I came to learn, it's actually the custom of small teapot brewing, or the sort of gong fu cha style. And we sat there for a full afternoon, got completely tea drunk.
Wow.
Which is a thing. Eating these little dim sums and being transported really into this new style of tea that I'd never ever encountered before. This single origin, single garden, and it was pretty much oolong that we stuck on most of the day, and I've never actually encountered that. And one of the teas that we actually drank was a Taiwanese oolong, which was in the Dongding. And all of a sudden, I had this connection to Taiwan, which
wow,
I had. The only real sort of connection I'd had in the past with Taiwan is that things that are made in Taiwan are probably better than those that are made in China, like in terms of quality. Like that's
okay, I get that.
Yeah,
as a Westerner.
Exactly. And that's, as I said, that's my background in terms of being raised. So I just dived into this rabbit hole of learning more about Taiwanese teas, and it just gave me this real sense of pride about this crafted product, agricultural product that they're so well known for. And it just made me want to learn more, and that really sparked that sort of drive to learn more about tea and the world of tea. And then it just maintained, I was really a passion project all through my sort of accounting career. And I think when I moved to the UK, I got really serious about being a really nerdy sort of tea person. And I was traveling around the world 3 out of every 4 weeks and couldn't quite keep up with time zones. I was working to UK time, trying to work local time, and it was just like 24-hour cycle of work.
Wow.
And I just thought, I'm just going to really engage my passion, and wherever I go, I'm just going to learn what tea is about in that country. And that's basically what I did for 5 years, and amassed all this knowledge, had no idea what I was going to do with it. Came back to Australia, took a little trip to come back home, and actually fell pregnant with my son. And then tried to go back into accounting land and just had no passion left for it. So it was like, okay, what else am I going to do? And I thought I really would love to show people, in particularly Brisbane, my local community, what tea can be. So I thought I'm just going to dive in and try and educate people in this community more about tea. And that's sort of where it all started.
Wow, that's awesome. And it's so cool because I remember you are the person that opened my eyes about tea. You know, I remember going down to Wandering Cooks on a Sunday and getting to taste all of the different things, and you getting to know my taste and, hey, try this and try this. And yeah, it was such a cool experience.
Oh, I love hearing that. Yeah, I miss those days.
I know, a simpler time. And what about you, Tania? What's your story prior to East Forged?
Prior to East Forge, I was selling commercial lighting. So lighting in houses, street lighting, flood lighting, chandeliers. Yes, I can calculate a really good lighting design. And
I love that. These are both two things, accounting and lighting. And you went tea. Tea's our thing.
Yeah, and tea's out there. Yeah. So as I told people, my partner's an electrical engineer, and both my kids went into lighting as well. So we're not the most, we're not the greatest of dinner companions if we go out to a restaurant, because the four of us will sit there with our heads up going, really?
just assessing what's going
better on over here. And, so, and we really do. We walk around with our heads up all the time. So even though we're out of it, I've been out of it for years, it's sort of like still very much part of my thought process. And what I love about lighting, and I still love lighting, is like tea. It's this unseen presence within everyone's life, and it can affect your mood. And people don't think about it. They don't realize how it affects them, you know. So anyway, that's what I used to do, but also the industry, because it was part of the construction industry on the commercial side of it, it's pretty tough. And when you got long lead times and you got to get big chandeliers in for projects and that, it was like, I'm just getting too old for this stress. So I take on other stress and start up another business.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if you thought that through.
I didn't think it was
very stressful.
So for me, like Kim, I grew up drinking tea. My dad taught me how to make tea. He was the billy boy when he was apprentice carpenter. Set the billy going in the 44-gallon drum, which you never see. Now the apprentice is sent down the road to grab some coffees. It's like, and I was in China, and I was just in some local markets and everything, and I had bought a teapot, and the shop owner invited me to sit and drink some tea with him, and it was a really beautiful green tea, and I hadn't tried green tea like that before. And I went, how come we don't have tea like that back here in Australia? And so that was my exit plan out of lighting, to go into tea.
Wow.
And I had planned to go and study in China, because as a salesperson, I truly believe that you must know what you're selling. You know, you must understand your product. And you thought, I'll get my head around this tea really easy. It can't be as hard as calculating lighting plans, you know. And as Kim and I both agree, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And my first study tour was to Taiwan, and strange connection between Kim and I ended up down the rabbit hole of Taiwan, and I've traveled back there quite a few times now, just learning more and more. So the trips to Japan, China and India just didn't happen because I ended up in Taiwan. So yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And so, you know, obviously with both of you have gone from careers to then falling in love with tea, and then serendipitously meeting and deciding and chatting and you know, building a relationship around tea, and then deciding to build a business together. So how did you, I guess, so there's two questions I want to ask. Firstly, what roles you both play in the business, and how you find having co-founders and how you navigate that relationship. And then I want to explore like how you actually got to making a product. So product development is hard. So I'm super keen to understand that. But let's talk about your roles first. So how did you decide who was going to do what? Has that evolved over time? And what do you both do now in the business?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved.
Yeah.
At first, it was very much we made joint decisions and we sat in meetings together, and it was very much we were a couple. We were a strong couple. Hey, Kim. You know?
Everything about across the business, we both were 100% across.
Wow.
And then we just there was a couple of little things that happened, and the to-do list just got bigger and bigger, and we it was actually, we were going through the StartMate program, wasn't it, Kim?
Oh, cool. Yep.
Well, through the interview process.
The interview process, and we got to second round in that, which was really great. But it was the thing that really stood out to us, and a little bit of advice given to us, is that divide and conquer.
Yeah. Yep.
And so Kim naturally headed towards the financial side, because me and spreadsheets, they sort of scare me. Excel scares me just a little bit. And so then I steered towards like the sales and marketing, because I actually have a degree in marketing, though it's been many years since I had done the marketing, but that's sort of where I steered that way. So so we sort of divided that way, didn't we, Kim?
Yeah, we did. We still make decisions about MPD together and product development, because I think that is actually our superpower.
Yeah.
What we know about tea, and being able to then merge that knowledge together and come up with ideas around product. So we think that will always stay the same, but it's definitely been about trying to move our responsibilities a little bit so that we can cover more ground and get more things done. Even though I'm the worst at it. So
I don't know. It's like, also besides, I say like Kim takes care of like the accounting and everything, but she's also the one leading the charge in the investment rounds, going out there talking to investors, and that's like really selling us as well. But she's better at speaking that language than me. I'm just like, as I said, Kim, you take care of that.
But I mean, that is so good, right? Like being able to, I guess, be able to have those conversations and respect each other enough where you can go, you know what, you're really good at that. I'm really good at this. And this stuff we both are amazing at, and we should come together for that more strategic product piece. That's incredible.
Yeah, but I think it's also, it came out of necessity. But when that was,
which I think it often does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But when that advice was given to us, we'd been together, talking to each other and probably working on this for a couple of years. So, yeah, you know, there is that development of trust that has come through by then. We've started to see the good and bad side of each other by then, you know.
And still love each other. Amazing. That's hard. It's like that though. Somebody said that to me once with a co-founder. They're like, plan the divorce before the wedding. And you're like, I was like, well, that's a very romantic way to look at it. But it was kind of that, you know, you're good at this, they're good at that. You know, document that down, think about what might happen in the event of a disagreement or like completely parting ways, like have all of those open and honest conversations as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah. I have to say, we haven't really talked about ever parting ways, though. I don't
That's
think
not a bad
I'd
thing.
let Kim go.
No.
And I don't think Kim would let me go.
Good.
If she tried to walk away from me, I'd be the classic hanging on to her ankles as she walked away. She'd be saying, please let me go. And I'd be going, no. And I think she'd do the same to me.
I was going to say, I'd do the same. I would do the same. And I think we both are very clear on what the exit plan. And I think we're both on the same page with that. And because of that, we're in it together to a point, you know, and then, so.
There was something, Kim, we did in early days, and it was about our values, wasn't it?
Yes, it was about, I think, it was looking at our why, but not necessarily the why for the business, but our personal why, like why are we both in this? And we sort of went through, we spent quite a bit of time around that. And I think we have different styles, and we have two independent people, and we think differently, that's for certain. But I think the core value of what we love about tea and what we really hope for the tea industry aligns very, very strongly. And I think once we sort of found that, and we had a conversation around why we're both here doing what we're doing, that sort of underpinned it. And that's probably why we don't, we've never talked about leaving each other.
No, we don't. And it's also how we view the world as well, Kim, remember? And our basic values that way.
That's right.
What prompted you to do something like that? Was there advice? Was there just a conversation? Like, was there something that triggered you both sitting down and talking about that why?
Kim, you were the one that came up with it. You said, I want to do this. What? Why?
Yeah, I know what it I walk my dog religiously at 5:40 in the morning, and I listen to podcasts. I'm a big podcaster. So that's sort of where I intake new information. And I think I might have been listening to an audiobook by Simon Sinek at the time. And there was some good stuff in there. And I just thought, I think it'd be great if we could have this discussion about where East Forge is going and why Tania and I are so invested in it. Because I think that's going to be important in the long term. And probably at the time I didn't think much more of it than that. But I think I said to Tania, we've really got to do this. I think it's important.
And look, it turned out to be awesome. Like, it turned out to be one of those fundamental conversations that, you know, you think at the time you're just having a chat and sharing ideas and sharing values, but it really does underpin how you work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. So let's talk product. So, people dialing in, it's a full mixed bag. It's e-commerce companies, software as a service, hardware companies, product-based businesses. So you guys have a product, a food and beverage industry category product. And I would say it's a pretty new category. Do you think? Maybe. But yeah, so
yeah,
tell me
look,
again.
it is. I would say it's a segment within the iced tea category that is first to market.
Yeah. And that's, so I'm kind of sitting here thinking, how did you go about approaching people and saying, this is our idea, let's make this happen? I assume there were no issues. It was super smooth. Everything was fantastic. First prototype work. No. So tell me about that process and, what challenges might have come up and how you overcame them and yeah, share that process with us.
Sure.
You can take this one.
Okay, I'll start. I think the flavor development in terms of, let me start by saying we didn't really know what the end product was going to be. We sort of knew we needed to elevate a cold brew tea experience, but we just weren't 100% sure on the execution.
Yep.
But in terms of flavor profiles and what we wanted our first line of SKUs to be, which were the 3 flavors, that came fairly quickly. And we're very fortunate. Tania had just been over in Shanghai representing Australia as the tea brewing champion of Australia. So she was,
wow.
Yeah, which is very cool. And not everyone knows that part of our story. So she'd just come back from Shanghai, seeing lots of cool stuff happening over in China. And we were just monitoring. We were always, as tea people, we monitor the tea space, and there were some other sort of nitro drinks popping up here and there. And up in Brisbane, because the weather was really warm, and I, as part of sort of my other tea business, I consult to cafes and restaurants, and I always give them a model for making a cold brew tea product because there's always good returns on investment there. So our headspace was in the right place. As we sort of thought about a little bit more about how we go to market, apart from a whole level of naivety, one of our first thoughts were we're going to go to the markets, the weekend morning markets, sell this product. Remember that, Tania?
I know.
And it sort of sat with us for a couple of days. I said, Tania, I've got 2 young children. It's not what I want to do with my life.
No.
And I don't know how scalable it was in that format. So that was a quick revision, let's just say.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. But it was a matter of, so we sort of kept working on flavor profile. We sent samples up and down the east coast of Australia. And then we sort of thought about, we were starting to think at this point, how are we going to get it to people, and how, what's going to be that overall result. And there was a lot of conversations around like what sort of container it should go to the consumer in. And there was a lot of conversation about that, wasn't there, Tania?
Yeah, there was. The battle of the bottle or a can.
Yeah, I remember we spent a long time on that. And I think I may have had a bit of a preference towards a can. But we were given a lot of advice that tea sold in a bottle is considered more premium because you can see what the liquid is and that sort of thing. So because we were kind of starting to get interested in a can, I don't know if this is working backwards in terms of our thought process, but that we knew that was what we wanted it in. So that's where the conversation started. We started tracking down people that can drink. And we had some very interesting conversations, didn't we, Tania?
Oh,
the first few people we reached.
Wow.
Let's say there was a lot of unanswered messages left, non-return phone calls. Oh yes, we can do that, and then no. So no. And I really thought down here in Melbourne, like the breweries down here would have been up for something like really different. But no, it ended up being a Sydney guy.
It did.
That was
It did.
prepared to take on the canning side of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. So we finally found a mobile canner that we had a conversation with, and he said even though he couldn't help us directly, he knew someone that might be interested in taking the brewing process and the actual the creation process and having that conversation. So that's how we landed with our co-packer that we use today.
Cool.
So we're very fortunate for Andy, and we sort of we lobbed up there, didn't we, Tanya? To a craft beer brewery, and we sort of said, this is what we want to do. We want to take these tea leaves and we want to put them in, we don't know exactly, but we want to brew this, and then we want to put some gas. And with tea particularly, we have seen sparkling teas, and you can still find sparkling teas on the market, but with sparkling teas and the use of CO2 very quickly overrides the delicate tea flavors.
Yeah. Okay.
And what you tend to find is that when people really start to use CO2 into their drinks, they are adding back in either sweeteners, sugars, or fruit juices, and it quickly transforms into either a fruit forward drink or something that's a lot sweeter and not representing the tea.
Yep.
So we knew we didn't want to play too much around with CO2, but we definitely had seen sort of nitrogen being a potential option for us. And creating textural head. Yeah.
I still remember sending you a message from China, Kim, after the competition, because I saw a nitro over there a little bit, and I just texted her from Shanghai going, no CO2, it's nitro.
Yeah. This is where it's at. Yep.
This is what we need to be doing.
Yeah. But then it was through Andy that we ended up with the mix of gases. So that's the similar mix to like a Guinness beer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So you've got that lasting excitement within the drink once the nitrogen foam disappears, because that can go fairly quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the reason behind it. Yeah.
And so you found the person after many trials and tribulations. So
about 12 months actually to find.
Oh, wow, really?
Oh yeah, it was not quick at all.
Yeah.
We were developing our flavor profiles and the whole time just keep ringing people, visiting people. Yeah. No.
And to be honest, if we hadn't have been two of us, this is where the co-founder power really came to light, I think.
Yeah.
Both of us said we would have given up. It would have probably within 2 months, 3 months of the journey trying to do it yourself. It would have been too overwhelming.
Well, it's so defeating, I guess, if everyone's kind of like not replying or saying yes, then no, and whatever. Like that is, it would be easy to give up.
And I sort of understand why they were saying no now.
Oh yeah,
because what we're doing is really different, and we are first to market, and we just sort of, to us it's a natural thing to do with tea. And it's funny, at the recent consumer makers and shakers I was at in Sydney just a couple of weeks ago, people were saying, why hasn't this been done before? And we don't know. We actually don't know, but we actually think it's just because the time is right now.
Well, I mean, the thing that I think of is that there are a lot of wines coming out that are zero alcohol. And I think what that's saying is there is a big market of people that want to engage in a social activity that doesn't involve drinking, and I just feel like you guys were way ahead of that trend. And I feel like there's a lot of things going on. I feel like that is one thing. And then just the education around tea and how amazing that experience can be, and how amazing. And you're right, changing people's perception of the English breakfast with milk, versus all of these amazing flavors and opportunities that there are there. And you're right, there is nobody else doing that.
No, nobody else is doing it. In fact, we were asked once, where have you seen this idea? We were asked that. which is fine. I can understand, because most people say there's never an original idea, and we actually said nowhere.
Yeah, wow. That is so cool. That is so cool. So what's next? What are you guys working on at the moment, and what's the next challenge that you're tackling?
Well, I think for us, we dropped into a major retailer this week for the first time.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Yeah,
this is so cool. Yes.
It's very cool. It's very amazing. It's quite amazing to see your product on shelf, I have to say. And it's just, I mean, it's a pilot trial, but we're hoping that it's going to give the data points that we need to then be able to roll it out a little bit further.
Yep.
Tania's been head down in a fantastic accelerator program, and I'll let Tania talk to that. And we are looking to sort of start our scaling journey now, I guess. So we were fortunate to be Boosting Female Founders recipients.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Grant, from last year. And we've brought on a couple of investors now to support this scaling journey. And it's,
and you guys did a Kickstarter to start as well, a crowdfunding type campaign.
Yeah, correct. We did. So in 2019, we ran that.
I can't believe that was that long ago.
I know.
Oh my God.
Date. It's just mind blowing.
Wow.
Yeah, that was ages ago, and that was just before we launched, and that was also with that was very small, and that was more to validate that people were interested in the product. It was the same as we went to all the tea festivals at the time. So product validation was really super important to us, which it should be anyway when you're creating.
Yes, definitely.
Just make sure that, people do think it's as good as we think it is. Yeah. And during our journey, one of the problems that Kim and I had probably was with distribution. Just that knowledge of working with supermarkets, because our strategy plan in the beginning was to do hospitality, and we launched the week before we all shut down for COVID. So that was an unexpected joy.
Yes.
But we also
glad you call it a joy.
But what we found through the journey is that our customers, yes, they go to cafes and restaurants, but they don't necessarily hang out at bars. But they want us at the supermarket. They actually want us there. So that's then why we've had to really look at our distribution, and the couple of investors that we've brought on actually are great guys, from Future State, and they've been in the industry, distribution, supermarket distribution, food service for we won't say how many years, but they're a long time. So having them on board, they're the ones that help to get us into Coles. The accelerator I've just finished working with is actually a Woolworths funded accelerator, Seaglass Australia. Yeah. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, some success comes out of that in the next few months as well.
Awesome. That's incredible. And I think one thing I've seen you guys do a lot is awards, accelerators, programs, grants. I love the idea of, we don't have to do this alone. There's people out there who have experience and expertise, and how can you leverage that to grow your business? I think that is so smart.
Yeah, I will have to say it's one of the things, it did take us a little while to learn. And so some of our learning could have been accelerated had we, we were of the opinion we're strong, independent women, we're intelligent, we can do everything ourselves. That kind of is how we came out of the gate in the first few months.
Good though, you need a little bit of that. You need a little bit of that.
I'm not saying that that's not important. But there's just things that you just don't know. And if you ask and you start to do your research well, it's made a huge difference for us.
Oh, absolutely. And I get asked, what's the one thing that you would give as a piece of advice? And down here in Victoria, I always say, go along to Startup Vic. It's one of the best startup communities, and just hang out.
Yes.
Hang out with other founders.
Yeah.
Listen to their problems, their woes, and don't be scared to talk about your idea.
Oh my God, yes. This is the best advice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
you've got to talk about it. We all get paranoid. Oh no, someone else will take the idea. But you've got to be, because you'll find more people will want to help you and support you through that idea than people that want to take it away from you.
Well, so the biggest, and you're so right, the biggest thing I learned was it is so hard. People won't steal your idea because the idea is not the hard part. The idea is roughly the easy part. The actual doing of it and bringing that to market, that is the hard part. And that's why people don't steal ideas, is because they know you can have the idea and that takes you 10 years to actually get it to be a success, you know? And you're right. Like, I've been blown away. Even that's why we do the Spark TV that we're on right now. It's because founders are so generous. And all it takes is just having that conversation, asking those questions, listening to other people's stories, where you go, oh, that was that thing that I'm dealing with, or, you know, if this inspires someone to apply for a grant that they were holding back on, or whatever it might be, like, that is the magic, just having those conversations with people who are in it, trying to do what you're trying to do.
Yep, completely agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Oh my God. Well, that is phenomenal. And I love it because that was the question that I was going to wrap up with, which is, what is that one piece of advice that you would give to a founder who was either early stage or just starting out? And I love that you threw it in there, because talking to people, getting amongst the community, whether, you know, wherever it is, whatever city you're in, is definitely the key. And I always say this too, you know, there are so many free resources out there, and people who are in, say, more regional areas who might not get access to go to networking events, there's so much online that you can jump in and start listening to other people's stories. So I'm so grateful that both of you came on Spark TV and shared your experience and wisdom with the Spark community as well. That's absolutely incredible.
Oh, you're more than welcome. We're very happy to talk. And it's not very often that Kim and I get to sit side by side like this and chat.
No, I love that so much. Yeah, and lovely. It's so good. I love hearing the co-founder story. That's incredible. Awesome. Well, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much again for being here. And I know that everyone listening in would have gotten a lot of wisdom from you both.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.